Underway, and I will hand this over to
This meeting is being recorded.
our vice chair from 2022 to get things rolling. Deborah McDaniel.
Hi. Yeah, hi, folks. So our first order of business tonight is to elect new officers. And hopefully you've all had a chance to read the packet about the process for nominating and electing new officers. And I'm seeing head bobbing, except I can no longer see Marwan's head. So I'll just assume that we're all good. And I would like to now place the nominations for chair.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can see my screen. I'm raising. Okay, there we go. Raising a hand.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yep, I can see that. Okay, Quinn, who would you like to nominate?
Great. Thanks a lot. I'd like to nominate Councilmember Mockler for chair.
Okay.
I accept this
Any-
nomination with honor.
Any other nominations?
Mhm.
Okay, I got to refer back to my document to figure out how to do this.
You have to repeat the request for further
I
nominations.
don't know. If there's only one nomination, I thought there was something else. For some reason, my document is not staying put on my computer. It's upsetting me.
So
Yes, we don't need a second, so I can declare them closed if there are no further nominations.
I
So
accept.
Mhm.
consider nominations closed, and then you've accepted. So we just need a member to make a motion to cast a vote for Anna Mockler for position of Audit Committee Chair.
Point of order,
Mm-hmm.
Madam Vice Chair. Due to like a new interpretation of the Open Public Meetings Act, we now have to ask if any member of the public wishes to comment.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Item 7 on the.
Mhm.
Excuse me. Thank you very much. Yes, I skipped right by that. Thank you so
It's
much.
new.
I appreciate the correction. Yep.
It's new.
Okay. I did not see any members of the public attending. So let's consider that done. Closing for public comment.
Hey, Vice Chair, this is Christine. I have my hand up. I just wanted to confirm. I looked in the attendees and there are no attendees at this time. I just wanted to confirm that
Thank
for the
you.
record.
I looked too before I flipped back
Mhm.
over to looking at the rules that I'm following here. Okay, so now we do need a motion to cast a vote for Anna Mockler for the position of Audit Committee Chair. And I will so move. And it must be seconded, so I need a second, please.
I'll second that motion.
All right.
you.
And then we need to vote by roll call. So I will kick us off and say Deborah McDaniel says aye.
Max needs to say.
Max, okay, thank you, Max. Quinn
Aye.
and Marwan. We've lost his audio again.
I saw a thumbs up.
There's a thumbs up.
Okay, thank you. And Anna.
Aye.
All right. And the nomination holds. Congratulations to our new chair. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. And now I'd like to quote at length from the Declaration of Independence, but I won't.
Oh, should we not read the Constitution out loud? Sorry.
So are there nominations for the position of Audit Committee Vice Chair?
I nominate Deborah.
Max, I can barely hear you.
I nominate Deborah.
Okay. Hang on, I'm zooming back and forth between Zoom and this. Are there any further nominations? Okay, seeing none. Now I declare nominations closed. Do you accept the nomination?
I do. Thank you very
Cool.
much.
Does any member of the public wish to comment on this item? Seeing no members of the public, I am closing public comment. Would anyone care to make a motion to cast a vote for Deborah McDaniel for the position of Audit Committee Vice Chair? Yeah, Quinn, please go ahead.
Sure, I'd like to make a motion to cast a vote for Deborah McDaniels for the position of Audit Committee Vice Chair.
I second. Okay, vote by roll call. Quinn,
Aye.
Jenny, you don't vote?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Marwan,
Aye.
excellent. Sound and visual. Max,
Aye.
excellent. Deborah,
Hi.
all righty then. We have a chair and a vice chair, and let joy reign
Woohoo.
unconfined.
Okay.
Okay.
Business.
The next item, I imagine, is to approve the November 28th, 2022 meeting minutes. Does anyone have any comments to make on these meeting minutes? Would anyone like to move to approve the meeting minutes?
So
Quinn,
moved.
go ahead.
So moved.
Okay, seconded. Any
Seconded.
objections? All right, moving right along then. Okay, the review of the 2023 budget mathematical accuracy testing. I've got a, before I go to this, I'd just like to do a procedural thing, which is, Christine, I see your hand, is within the committee. Can we just call each other by first names? Is everybody okay with that? Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, Christine, go ahead.
I just wanted to jump in, Chair, that there was a motion and a second, but I did not hear the consensus, the actual consensus, the vote.
Okay, Quinn said yes, Marwan said yes, Max said yes, I said yes right after Quinn, and then Deborah said yes.
Okay, thank you.
So the vote was unanimous. Is that more like what
That's-
you want to hear?
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
I will do that in the future. Okay, so the 2023 budget mathematical accuracy testing is, please take it away, Jenny. Okay, you're muted.
Oh.
That's okay. We've been in the pandemic for 17 years now.
It was just in case the puppy wanted to start singing. Anyway, as most of the committee, well, half of the committee knows, I tested the mathematical accuracy of the budget back in the October, November, December timeframe, and then just drafted a memo on the results of the review. There were a number of mathematical errors, mainly just where numbers didn't properly flow through. So on the subsidiary schedules flowing up to the main schedule, there were some problems in there. None of those problems were of any magnitude that anyone should be concerned about. The one thing that I thought was worth noting, and I did point out in an earlier meeting, was that the fund balances, it's similar, but not the same, but it's similar to a checkbook, you know, where when you have not that we use checkbooks anymore, but when you have an ending balance on the bottom of your page and you flip to the new page, you put that ending balance is the beginning balance on the next page. And there are a number of instances where that's not the case in the fund balances. And so there's a reason for it, and it's primarily I think it's the end of 22. They update their best estimate so that most of the numbers in the 22 column are based on the budget for 2022 and it's mid-year. But then when they're doing the budget, they update the fund balance of their best estimate of what they think it will be at the beginning of 2023. So it just leads to some discrepancies, and finance has agreed that they're going to address it. There's not enough time to fix it this year. So they're going to discuss the best way to approach it next year, but they're aware of it. I've talked to them about this, and anyway, there was no major findings. I do think it was a worthwhile exercise, though, to go through and clean up even though the smaller math problems that were in there.
Didn't you say?
Yeah.
Oh, Deborah, please, are you raising your
Okay.
hand?
Yeah, I was, not
Okay.
virtually, but yes, I am raising my hand. So yeah,
Okay.
Jenny, it seems worthwhile to me, if for no other reason than for the process improvement that you've induced finance to undertake. Because I think that's really going to have a nice effect on usability and readability of the budget by non-financial people.
Well, the other piece of this project that's going to be like in the next memo, and I say that at the end
Right.
of this one, is that Christine and I are looking at other jurisdictions' budgets to see if there's
Mhm.
some places where we can improve our budget, and we'll be submitting those. I think we'll probably have a pretty good list at our next meeting, just some
Oh, great.
considerations.
Didn't
And
you
I-
find that Paulsbo had a special line item for this? I think it was Paulsbo.
Yeah, that's what I read.
Yeah, they actually add a line item to reconcile the numbers. I think that would be a great way to go. And Mike
Mhm.
said he would consider that way. He's also considering whether to just put it in the text of the budget, in the narrative, but the narrative is so long. The whole budget is like a 300-page document. And I feel that if you put it on page, 37, what if someone doesn't read page 37 and they're not understanding why these fund balances don't work? I just don't feel it's fair to think that everyone reads every single sentence on every single page. So hopefully
Yeah,
they'll,
people don't read.
Yeah, I agree that the purpose of an exhibit is to contain information that's all inclusive. So you shouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily have information that's disjointed if the purpose is to have an exhibit.
yeah, thank you for that. I agree. Yeah, I think that the text should be able to stand on its own and the exhibit should be able to stand on their own. So maybe included in both places.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. And
So we'll need tonight, Anna, we'll need the committee to chime in if they think if they saw any mistakes or anything that they would like to see reworded or anything. And if not, then, they'll vote to approve the memo and then I can move it along.
yes. In your work plan, this is happening in conjunction with summarizing budget development and researching other budget formats. Is that correct?
Well, the budget development was done like the first part of this. So I had to know how the budget comes together and how all the pieces fit before I can start really testing the budget. So that budget development was already looked at. This was the mathematical accuracy. And I think on the work plan, the next one is budget improvement considerations or something like that.
Research information conveyed in other jurisdiction budgets, yeah.
So,
Okay,
and that's
so-
the part that's underway, but I haven't reported on it yet.
Okay, so summarizing budget development isn't in progress, it's done.
Correct.
Yay!
So I would like to make a motion that we approve the memo as presented by Jenny.
I'll second that.
Any objections to approving this as read? The motion passes unanimously.
All right.
Okay, moving right along. The audit committee overview, who is presenting that?
I don't know that we're really presenting anything on this. I think that we pulled these documents together primarily because we have two new people on the council, and we just wanted you to have this background information. Certainly, if you have any questions about it, we can help you with that, hopefully this evening. But I mean, we can walk through the pages if you would like. There's a no.
No.
Okay.
I read the pages 2.5 times.
Okay. All right. The one thing I'm going to point out just a couple of things then. The one is on the organization chart. It shows that the audit committee reports to the city council. That actually isn't true. And it should either be a dotted line or no line at all. We're an independent committee. So we don't. If Jeff says, I want you to do something, we would certainly take it into consideration, but we would decide if we want to do it. I just want to make sure people understand that we're independent of the administration and of city council. The only way that we're connected to city council is that there are two of you sitting on the committee. But anyway, just so that that's clear, we've never had a problem. You know, we never tell council to jump in the lake or anything, but we are independent. We would never
Thank
do
you
that.
for pointing that out. Thank you for pointing that out, Jenny. That I noticed that too, and I'm like, that's not quite true. So yeah,
Right.
we should just be off in our own little world there. Yeah.
I like what it
I
says
also-
I like what it says in the Bremerton Municipal Code that the auditor has the same responsibility and authority as a department head in managing the finances and operation of the city auditor's office. There you go.
Yeah, there it is.
Bada bing,
And I
bada
did
bang.
want to point out we have 3 new members, including Marwan. So we have 2 new city council members and a new citizen member. So we're like a brand
Quinn
new
was
committee
on
almost.
this committee last year.
Yeah, Quinn's been with us, Deb.
Deborah, I've been
Oh,
here for
hello.
a year. I don't say much, but
Yeah,
I've been here.
really? Okay, so it is just 2 people. Damn, I'm such an idiot. Thank you.
Not your fault. Me not liking that.
Maybe it's your new glowing complexion, Quinn.
It is. It's the Mexican
we go.
sun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sweet.
Okay, I will also point out, especially for the new people, on page 16 of 38 of the attachment is there's A through I, and that kind of tells you what your role is on the committee. And you know, as Anna said, we don't need to read through these documents whatsoever, but I did want to point that out. If you're wondering what your role is, you'll find it there on page 16 of 38. And that's all I have to say about that, unless you have questions on those documents.
Well, I have questions, but I'm going to yield to everybody else before I ask them.
I have none.
I don't know who has one. Deborah?
Nope.
Oh, Jenny, I'm
I have
sorry. Please
none.
go ahead.
No, I think no one has said they have any yet.
Okay. All right, well, then I'll just go ahead. Here's how it looks to me, so I would like to be corrected where I am wrong. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, so the auditor's office, before the state auditors used to come in and audit the finances of municipalities, et cetera, was a ginormous, burdensome office with, you know, basically they were doing that job that the state audit now does in addition to everything else. Is that correct?
I don't believe so. No, I believe it used to be one full-time auditor that did the same type of work that I do now. And that the state auditor's office has been doing our audits for, I'm not sure if it's forever, but it's as far back as I know.
Okay, well,
More than a decade. Yeah, we just had
Well,
Jenny's
more
right.
than-
We had a full-time. Go ahead.
Well, it would have to be earlier than 1982 for sure.
okay,
Yeah.
But I think it's longer than, I think it might be forever.
okay, forever.
Mhm.
Excellent. People were carving these results into stone. But looking through the work plan, it seems to me that there's more or less three groups of things, purely financial, like the testing mathematical accuracy. That's purely mathematical and financial. And then there are other matters of audit that are more like what an investigator would do. Like we have the new position of asset manager, making certain that our policies and our ethics are comply with state standards. And then of course there's a blend of both of these with extra elements. Is that about accurate, or am I just reading through it too fast?
Well, it's a different way of characterizing, I would say. I don't recall everything that's on the work plan. I think that they're somewhat project-based is how I would describe them. We did just finish a very internal audit program when we looked at the inventory out at Gold Mountain Golf. So that's more the groups that I would look at. The budget was it was just mathematical testing. It's not really.
Well, because I'm looking at things like update the surplus land review, i.e. identifying city-owned land that could be used to develop affordable housing, creating a database of landlords, both licensed and unlicensed. I know here it just says unlicensed. Inventory the city's written policies by department. Those sound more like, something Philip Marlowe would do, or
You know who that is? They're all projects. To me, they're all projects.
And some are more investigatory and some are more, and as you put it, more purely financial, and some, like the cash count at the police department, are a blend. And I think, Jenny, to be fair, you and Christine regularly do some things that aren't quite a project. I'm thinking of the cash counts and things like that are regular occurring things that you do, as opposed to the projects which tend to be unique in nature.
That's true. Ongoing cash counts that we do.
Yeah.
A little audit that we do over at the police station in their evidence room, just
Right.
testing, making sure that what's in the system on a test basis, we can find it in the inventory evidence room, and what's on the floor, we can find it in the computer system. So that
Right.
that's an annual task. I'm not sure when you say investigative, I'm a certified fraud examiner, and so that's more what I consider an investigation. So I think there's some semantics that I'm struggling with.
I'm
Yeah,
thinking of
yeah.
it as like, just basically what you would do in graduate school, where you would go and research. It's like what are the city-owned properties? For example, Christine prepared a graphic for us of there's a GIS layer that has already done that. All the city-owned properties show up. Whether they are suitable for developing affordable housing, this I can't tell you. Because I can't. Yeah, because only the mayor can tell staff to find that out. But I'm just saying that would be what I would call investigative. It's, you don't need, you can be like me and, do your taxes with great difficulty and grinding of teeth and still be able to figure out which plots are available, which ones we own and which ones might be suitable.
I think another way to categorize it too is it's kind of like an official inspection by an independent body or an independent person. So it's someone who's more or less a check on other departments or other bodies or other agencies.
Okay. I would love to take up your time, Jenny, with finding out more about the whole license to investigate fraud. But is it the will of the committee that we spend 10 minutes now doing that? Or do you want me to? No. Okay.
Let's move on.
But I would love to find
Please.
out more about that at some future point, because that sounds fascinating. Okay, moving on to the agenda. Citizens' concerns and questions. I believe this is the tripartite email from Ruby. I can't remember her last name.
McCarthy.
It is.
Okay, so Jeff Coughlin forwarded this, Ruby McCarthy, there we go. And I failed to understand why this didn't go to Public Works and Public Safety. And Christine began explaining it to me, but I would like all of you to explain it to me. Well, why is this here? Just because I don't.
Partly because she requested that this be put before us.
Okay.
So I think whenever a citizen says, I want Audit Committee to look at this, we owe it to our citizens to do that. Even if it's just to say, as you just did, this needs to go to Public Works and Public Safety and blah, blah, blah. Also, and Christine pointed this out to me too, audit is seen as someone outside the purview of the mayor's office and the council and all these. We're seen as a safe place to raise concerns. So we don't want to disabuse people of that. And yeah, it also points out that we need, and this is not for us to solve, but in my opinion, I think the city needs a better process for people to report things they're having an issue with, so they don't have to figure out and be the expert on how City Hall is organized. They can just make a call and that complaint or email gets routed properly and it gets taken care of and they get responded to appropriately. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
I'm looking to the other senior members of the committee to.
Yeah, I'll just put in my 2 cents. I think that Deborah is correct. Like us saying like, okay, we received this from Jeff. He routed it to the committee because she asked for it. I think this does make sense to be more of a public safety committee issue. I am curious to hear if Christine had other thoughts on it. It sounded like Christine gave you some more information, Anna, as to why, and if it's different than what Deborah said, but that's how I understood it. That we, discussing it right now for 2 minutes is enough because it seems to be a public safety issue rather than an audit committee issue.
Christine, please go ahead.
Oh. Yes, I pretty much reiterating what I just heard, other than when, as city staff, when I see an email, I try to get it where it needs to go. But if a citizen's specifically requesting to go to audit committee to start with, even though it's clear most of it, that's not appropriate. But if there's a piece of this email of these concerns that Audit Committee wishes to specifically address, you're welcome to discuss that. If there's something of interest in there that catches your eye, you're thinking, that's interesting, maybe that could be a potential project, we should discuss that. That would be under the work plan umbrella later. But just kind of leaving it open as far as how you feel, how you want to respond to it. But I agree, I do get emails and calls from people that they're just not sure where to start, or again, they really feel safe with the Audit Committee. And we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So
And-
I did, sorry, were you done, Christine?
Oh, we just wanted to follow up on that earlier mention of how we got here with all those documents. There was one piece that I believe I left off, and that was the Code of Ethics. It's another section, but that oversight and that independentness, part of this was created because there was a lack of trust in government. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Well, that hasn't gotten much better. Did anybody else of the senior and experienced people like to have it add anything more on this one?
Well, I will just add a little bit to it because I did call Ruby today. And so the first item, just to give you a little bit more meat on the bones there as to what happened. It was about the work that Public Works was doing with the ADA sidewalks.
Uh-huh.
So she lives apparently across the street from the park, and they were doing the ADA sidewalks at the park, from what I understand. And then they went over to her yard and also did some of the work over there. And apparently talked to someone that they thought was the owner, because that person, I think, misrepresented themselves as being the owner of her house. So when she saw them out in her yard tearing it up so that they could widen the sidewalk, she went out there and said, hey, what the heck? And they said, well, we talked to the owner of the house. And she said, well, I am the owner. And anyway, I think that Jeff brought it up in a Public Works Committee meeting, explained what happened. And, so probably they're already addressing that one. Would there be, there's potentially something that we could do there, we could see if there's a process so that that prevents Public Works from going to the wrong yard, or I don't know how many instances there are where a neighbor would actually misrepresent themselves, but apparently there may have been not the best relationship between the two parties. And so it just gets a little bit bizarre, but anyway, so that's what happened there. There potentially could be a little bit of audit work, but again, maybe it just, there can always be some audit work in a lot of different places, we have to pick and choose what we want to do. We do have a work plan that tells us what we want to do. So the question might become, do we think that any of this would take priority? We don't even, as I understand it, we don't even run the 911 operation. But Christine pointed out that, we could still talk to someone from public safety, fire or police, and ask, is this okay? Is there something that should be done, just to follow up? Or it can just go to one of those parties and let them deal with it. And then the bridge blast, she wants to become involved in the permitting review process. It's something we can either look at, or it can just go to the department that already does this, and they can, they're going to be the ones that are best situated for it. We can get involved and just be kind of the mediator in it. But
if I can chime in, I agree that I think this committee probably shouldn't be a customer service line for every potential grievance, and kind of dilly it out as appropriate to the respective department or agency that kind of oversees it. But I think on our work plan, we do have an item about kind of documenting or at least getting an inventory of some key controls. And I think when a citizen kind of makes a complaint like this, it highlights, one thing maybe the city doesn't have a good control over, such as validating that.
Max, you're cutting out quite a bit. Oh, thank you.
Such as validating that the owner of a house is actually the owner of a house. We might want to just call that out as something that the city should have a process over, a formal, signed piece of paper or something that would kind of prevent that going forward. So that's on our work plan. Maybe we can kind of keep that in the back of our mind as a recommendation or something that we noticed wasn't being done. But as far as addressing each and every one of these, I don't know if that's necessarily the purpose of this committee.
Well, I'm on the Public Works Committee. So many a time they have told us that they put door knockers on every door saying, we're going to come by and do this work, so be ready. But both Quinn and I have many a time voted on contracts where Public Works isn't doing the work themselves, but is contracting it out. And that's it ought not to be, but often they feel a diminished sense of loyalty to Bremerton, perhaps. That's the politest, that's a fairly polite way of putting it. They're just subcontractors, contractors and subcontractors. And that's going up to people's door and hanging a door knocker. I will bring that up at the next Public Works Committee meeting, just to make sure that they are giving notice, because that's an easy step to miss.
I would
love to hear
also
about this.
say if they're doing it on the front door,
Yeah,
and I'm sure you know this from campaigning, people don't use their front doors a lot of times. It may be a week before they look to see if something is hung on their front door. So postcard to the resident, maybe, I don't know. There's probably, again, this is not for us to figure out, but I think they need some process improvement here, because it's not the first time I've heard of difficulties along this line with Public Works.
Christine, Quinn, are you carrying on with this issue? Because Marwan has raised a question about the permitting application.
I
Thank
was
you, Deb.
gonna let you know that Marwan was in the chat. So that's
Yeah. Marwan, are you talking about a permit from Parks Department or a permit for from planning? From Parks. So they've been frustrated with the application and the approval process? Is that correct? Okay. This is a strange new way of communicating for me. I'm sorry, I'm getting used to it. Okay.
Well, most of the application for the bridge blast was through DCD.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't catch all of Marwan's chat.
Well, it's DCD is planning, the Department of Community Development. Marwan.
Right.
And that would be like anything building or construction related.
I think he's referring to item 3 in Ruby's letter about permitting for the event.
Yeah, and I think that's Parks, but it could well be, it looked like Parks. Let's all go back and look at it some more. Do you have the page number, Marwan, where it tells you what agency it is? Okay, then let us go then.
It's right after her letter.
Yeah, it's a
right
special
after her
event
letter.
permit application. That's usually a Parks Department. And it does take place, bridge blast.
You can see on the second page of the application that it says Tax and License Division. So it's page 25 of
Oh, so
38.
it is DCD. Yeah, I see it. Okay, so that was a straight up DCD. All right, that's really strange. Okay.
I think that there's also on a parks component to it, because I think that they needed to rent a shelter over at Evergreen maybe. And
Yeah,
I'm not sure about the arrangements for using them.
I think they had vendors over there.
Well, also in section 5 of their application, there's
right,
a
I'm zooming.
checkbox where they have to go to complete addendum E if it's to be held on Parks and Rec property. So they have to do this permit that we have, and then there's an addendum that they have to fill out as well
Right.
for the whole event. I share the residents' concern about process transparency and number of staff for an event with this many, projected attendees.
I'm trying to speak last because that's the proper way for a chair to act. Christine, please go ahead. Christine, you have your hand up?
Thank you. I just want to throw in that there's a third component that's not mentioned here, and that's when there's insurance required by events. And that typically goes either through risk management. In some cases like this one, since I'm familiar with lodging tax, it may also pull in our contracts administrator. So yeah, it's really complex.
A real mulligan stew. Jenny, you had something you wanted to say?
Well, I don't know. I guess I just go back to my earlier comments that you just, the committee just needs to decide if any of this belongs on our plate. I mean, any of it can be an audit. It's just a question of prioritizing, and if you want to bump something else out later and move something like this in, or not entertain it whatsoever. I mean, if you do want to entertain it, what do you move in order to bring it into the schedule? Or do you put it as a lower priority that it's something we'll get to next year, or,
Well, have there been any other complaints about Public Works employees sort of like attacking people's property without notice?
I think that they do have someone that they can call. I'm not sure how it works. Christine probably knows Hillary Hamilton.
Yeah.
Deals with she responds to a lot of resident concerns. I'm not sure how people are supposed to know how to get a hold of her, because
You would use the Bremerton One app.
Okay.
Or you would just go to Public Works customer response. Or you would email them. Or you would have her number on speed dial, as I do.
I think that any of these would be well treated in the departments themselves, and if Ruby doesn't get satisfaction there, we could let her know that if she doesn't get satisfaction, she can contact us, and we can be a second set of ears to see if there's something more that we can do. I mean, that's another approach, is to say, let's get the departments to do it. If that doesn't work for the resident, then we can reconsider.
Okay. I will speak to Public Works. I noticed that one item on the work plan is starting department by department. Hang on. I'm yelling quietly at my computer, which is so not behaving. There we go. To inventory the city's written policies by department for specific areas like purchasing, procurement, payroll, inventory management, etc. So it's marked down that we could start with one department. I guess we could start with Public Works. And just look at their outreach, perhaps, or their transparency, their responsiveness. It's just a possibility that I'm presenting. I'm sorry, Deborah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I had thought we had something in our work plan on process improvement, although I think it suggested process improvements. I guess that's just kind of an understood piece of every report that we know Jenny will produce. So yeah, I think for myself, I'm kind of done talking about this letter, but I do think we need to keep it in mind and yeah, let her know to get back to us if she is dissatisfied with the response she gets, because that's an area that we can definitely look at. And I totally agree, Jenny, we got to look at the work plan and say, okay, where does this fit and what moves? And having labored on the work plan many times over many years, it's a delicate balance. So yeah, we've got to really consider what's the most important and fits within our purview.
Well,
That's all.
what is the way that members of this committee would put forward suggestions for prioritization of the work plan to the committee as a whole?
I would say that Jenny should suggest, what she thinks is the highest priority, and then we can also discuss if we agree. I think she's closer to the details, and so it would be wise to kind of defer to her judgment to start with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I missed the last part of that.
She's closer to the details, and so I think it would be wise to defer to her judgment to start with.
Okay.
I would agree with Max, unless and except if we get strong direction from another party, either one of our council members, the mayor, someone like that. A department head comes to us and begs for help, that kind of thing.
Most likely I'll agree if it's needed.
I'm sorry, I'm just lost in that sweet vision of a begging department head. It's difficult to imagine, but there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is the plan then that I will forward these concerns to the different departments and ask them to follow up with her and then have them report back to me, or just leave it at that and let Ruby know that if she's not happy, or I mean, how would you like me to go about it? Or go ahead and hand it off to the departments and then, see what their response is and let you know.
And
Just let it.
CC her on the handoff. Oh, I'm sorry, Quinn, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna pipe in that, yeah, I think that makes the most sense. Like, hey, we discussed this at the audit committee meeting. We've forwarded your concerns to the appropriate departments. If something is going on with the way that the customer service is handled, or the process that isn't going really well, come back to us, and then us as a committee can kind of take a look at that process and go back to Marwan's suggestion of, hey, is this process something that needs to be improved, and does it need to be moved higher on our priority list? I think those next steps make the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I did think it was interesting on the application that the applicant, they say, will police be needed? And the applicant says no.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did think that was kind of interesting that you have this huge event where apparently there's multiple road closures and bridge closure. Hopefully the city of Bremerton police weigh in on that decision as well, that a bridge blast shindig in Bremerton, whether there's additional police needed. Just
I
saying.
believe they had 10 police officers.
No, that's staff. That was
Okay, so-
staffing for the event. I don't think
I
that's
don't know.
police officers.
I don't know who it is. Anyway,
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting, that really no law enforcement presence whatsoever. Anyway,
but the police department thought different.
Well,
yeah, I bet they did too.
I
Like-
personally would be very happy if we stopped selling fireworks in Bremerton and moved the bridge blast to Belfair, but that's just me.
I'll
Sadly,
fight that, Councilor Member Mockler. I'm on the other end of that spectrum, so we gotta discuss.
you would prefer that there be more fireworks?
Love fireworks.
Okay.
I used to love them until I had a dog that would turn herself inside out for
I
days
do
because
have a-
people
Yeah,
control themselves.
I know.
So-
We medicate our middle beagle. He hates them too.
Yeah, there was no medicating this dog. We'd have had to put her in a coma.
Okay.
All right.
But
We've strayed.
yeah, the thing is, no matter how we feel personally, that our job is to represent our constituents, not to, you know, I was not elected queen of District 6, sadly.
Darn, sadly. Yes.
Voters were short-sighted.
Anyhow, hey, we are racking right along. We might actually get out of here in time for supper. Is anybody have more comments on the Ruby McCarthy? And Jenny, you're happy with the action you're going to take? Okay, then let us move along to the Audit Committee work plan. Vroom.
So we probably wouldn't even be looking at the work plan, except that we have 2 new members. And so, you know, the old committee, the former committee came up with this work plan, and it's what's in play. The reason that the parking contract is on there is that there's
Yes.
a new contract that took effect the first of the year, and it's a 1-year contract. And so it would be timely to see how that is being held up by the vendor, you know, if they're following the terms of the contract. So that's why it's on there. We had actually, we initially were going to look at the parking contract, but it was too late in the year, and there was already one under negotiation. So it would have made sense to be reviewing whether they're complying with a contract that was getting ready to expire. So that's why it's on there. And then the item below that is the parking enforcement costs. And that was to take a look at what the cost would be to do the parking in-house and compare it to the cost of the vendor.
In Park, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So that's
Jenny,
why
would-
they're coming up on the work plan. So if you move things around, you have to remember that there's a timeliness issue with those particular items.
Okay. So we're talking about mid 2023 for the third-party contract?
Yes.
Okay. So what is your pleasure to work on next? Since you have this great gaping hole where you were planning to work on parking.
Well, we're going to finish the budget improvement considerations. So that's not going to take a lot of time. We should have that wrapped up. I'm hoping by next meeting that we'll have a draft for you. And usually when we present a draft, there can be some small changes. We've never had a committee say, oh gosh, go back and do another month or 2 worth of work. That just doesn't happen. So we think it will, you know, it'll be pretty close to being done by the next meeting. So yeah, we might need something to, well, we could start. We probably won't have enough information yet for we could start the cost of the internal parking enforcement.
Yep.
And
I had a
then,
question about that,
Mhm.
or comment. Would you be looking at all at potential impact of improved accountability as well? Or is that too unquantifiable, too hard to quantify?
Well, the text would probably comment on some things like that, like
Mhm.
that, you'd have more control over that. There's also the negative aspect of having parking done internally. So right now, people can they can still be mad at the city, but they can also take some of their anger out on IMPark when they get a ticket, or when they get
Yes,
multiple
that's
parking
true.
tickets. When it's people in your district that are getting tickets from the city of Bremerton, you might have to be dealing with more problems in that regard, more
Mhm.
upset
Mhm.
residents. But so yeah, there could be some narrative comments about that, but I'm not going to quantify that. I don't know how to quantify that.
Yeah, okay.
So be focused on the cost and.
Well, IMPark isn't allowed to enter District 6 because of running water or something. I've never heard of them giving a ticket in my district, but in Quinn's district, they are active. So please go ahead, Quinn.
Yeah, and actually, it's the opposite problem that I've heard from my
Mhm.
constituents is a lot of junk vehicles not receiving tickets, even though they're getting reported on the Bremerton One app, even though they're getting called in, and then also junk vehicles getting ticketed multiple times and then nothing happening as far as escalating consequences like towing. So from a constituent standpoint, I do think if we can focus, especially since it's a 1-year contract, to focus on what kind of controls they have and what the actual efficacy is versus what it would look like in-house. I don't know if that's too complicated of an analysis, but at least like the amount of tickets written versus towed versus like calls that are made about cars would be, I think, really interesting for constituents to know about.
And I think then government is not being responsive. If they say, use the Bremerton One app, the problem will get fixed, and then it does not, then you have more loss of faith in government. But fortunately, we have an auditor here who can tell us if this is an overly complicated investigation.
To be finding out what the citizen complaints are?
To be finding out what it would cost, like if we, how can we improve? Well, the end goal, of course, is no more junk cars. Like they get ticketed once or twice, they're towed. Would that be more effectively done by, please correct me if I'm misquoting you, Quinn. Would that be more effectively done by an in-house agency or during the 1-year contract that IMPark is currently under or about to embark on? Would they like up the enforcement level on this item? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think you're getting at it. I think like what would be interesting for council to know as we go into next year deciding whether or not to renew the contract with IMPark is IMPark a good steward of public funds? Are we getting what we're paying for? Are they actually doing the job? Because what I get is constituent complaints and saying like, hey, I've reported this multiple times and these cars are still here. I don't really have a process to say like, okay, what are the overall numbers? How many people are calling in? How many tickets are being written? How many tows have there been? Are they actually following the ordinance? So that would be interesting for me and my constituents. That's been one of the major complaints, especially in my neighborhood. I'm close to the shipyard, so that's where it is.
Yeah.
I'm curious if there's any roadblocks for, IMPark having authority to do certain things versus the city. Maybe that's something that somebody knows on this committee or we could look into.
And I think I can't remember, Anna, if you're on public safety again this year, but I am. And so I can bring that up at public safety and just see what the process is and see if there's
That would be
anything there.
great.
Yeah.
Because anything we can do to not just say, here, have faith in government, but to actually prove to people that if they complain, that here's what will happen and that people will get back to them at every step of the process. You know, they won't just like send their complaints into the ether. I think everything we can do along those lines is excellent. So is that after like talking around it for all that time, Jenny, did we come up with something clear for you to consider?
Yes, I'm certain that I will have questions, but you know, I need to look at the contract and digest it a little bit. But I have time for that because I'm not starting this right away, and I have no problem reaching out to any of you to ask, you know, more about your thoughts if I need to get going on it before our next meeting.
Okay.
But I think I'll be okay until the next meeting, but I'll probably have questions at the next meeting, what you're looking for.
Okay. Are there?
I'm thinking that, you know, that you asked about if there's barriers to them doing their job. I would certainly hope that we didn't put anything in the contract that you need to do this and they're not able to do it for some reason. So hopefully, but that's a good question.
Were you talking about barriers where the police might not be able to do it, Max?
Well, something that they're either restricted per the contract or something that there's a city ordinance or a city rule that they have to navigate before doing something. So if it's something that the city could pass or I don't know the official term for it, but authorize them to do, that might be a handicap. You know, is that cheaper than the city taking on the responsibilities themselves, and could it solve the problem that way? Might be something to look into.
Okay. Is this did anyone have anything more to say about the work plan here before we go on to the next item? Well, I have a brief item for your consideration, which is that many times Tom Nucky, Director of Public Works, has talked about the fact that if they can do things in-house, it costs 1/3 of what it costs to do it by contract. I spoke to Mike Riley about this, the Director of Finance, and he said, well, that's conservative. It's probably 4 to 5 times more expensive to hire a contractor than it is to do it in-house. Active Construction Inc., SCJ, which stands for something, and Parametrics are 3 huge consultants with the city. And I thought it would, if we could identify recurring elements in the work that they do for the city. This is quite a large job, I'm certain. But if we could identify places where we could replace contractors with employees, that would be a savings, and that we could use that for, you know, equity, art, music, improving quality of life.
Streets. Yeah, you know, they were going to have me look at that a long time ago, and then it got pulled for some reason. I don't remember why.
Was this before Chal Martin?
It was right around that time. I don't recall. He I think Chal was still here, and then he was gone shortly after. So I do vaguely recall, but No, I don't recall well enough. But Tom Nucky may have been one of the persons that was in favor of bringing more work in-house. Even though the cost, so this is the tricky part, is like the hourly cost is dramatically less expensive in-house. The only thing is that you have to, look at the utilization. So you can hire a contractor to do something for 2 months, but you don't hire an employee for 2 months. You know what I mean?
I do.
So that's where it gets a little more complicated in looking at the numbers. So
Would it, Deborah, I'm almost done and I'll come right to you. Would it be possible for you, Jenny, to get a copy of the ETS investigation, which analyzed public works in, I think, late 2018, early 2019?
it's possible that we already have it.
That
Because
would be great. That would be
Yeah.
simpler.
it might have been something that we received when we first started looking at it, but
I'm sorry, you're cutting out.
I'm sorry. It may be something, like I say, we did start this project and it may be something that we received at that time, but I'll have to double check. It just seems like we did receive something.
Well, it would make my little heart go pit-a-pat. Thank
So do you know where that investigation report resides?
Do I know where it resides? No, I know that it was reported in the Kitsap Sun that they had done an investigation and the company's initials were ETS. Do you want me to get you more information than that? Because I can identify the author of the report, but I want.
Christine is very good at finding things on Laserfish. So
I'll see what I can find. Yeah.
Okay.
she's extremely good at finding things. So we'll start there.
It'd be nice if some of the work had already been done, which seems possible.
Done by ETS.
Yeah, that'd be pleasant, no?
Be wonderful. I love having a starting place. It definitely makes things easier, identifying documents and.
Okay. Had you finished, Jenny? Deborah, thank you so much for your patience. Please go ahead.
Not a problem. I just wanted to suggest that we put a thorough review of the work plan with an eye to possibly revising it based on the conversation tonight on a future agenda.
Well, let's not put it on a future agenda, but put it on the February agenda.
That's fine. Yeah,
Okay, hang on. If I don't write it down, you know what's going to happen.
that's right.
Okay, so, all right, I'm going to be a professor for like really quickly. So your homework is to come up with things you'd like to add to or take from or otherwise amend in the work plan when we review it in February. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yeah. But don't show it to each other, because if we get a rolling quorum, we all break out in suppurating hives.
That's right.
Isn't that correct, Quinn? That's the penalty for, yeah.
That is what the statute states, and I believe the Supreme Court upheld that. I'll do a little bit more research to make sure.
Also, before we lose Marwan, we probably want to talk about our meeting schedule. It looks like he's getting ready to go into his daughter's concert.
Oh, shoot. Okay. I hadn't realized you had a concert, Marwan. I'm so sorry. Okay, so here's our meeting schedule. Is everything okay with you on it, Marwan?
Yes, for 5 p.m. the fourth Monday.
Yes.
Yeah, that
And
works.
we will be
fine for
meeting
me.
every month until October, when we will be canceled due to lack of quorum.
Sounds
Is that
good.
okay?
Yep, that's good. It's my daughter's
Wonderful.
first cello recital.
She plays the cello.
Does.
Oh. Okay, I could get
Great.
easily carried away with that. Well, please tell her to break a leg.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do it,
See
Marlon.
you on February. For the rest of us, is there anything for good of the order that you wanted to mention that has not been on the agenda? Because I believe that's the end of the agenda. These are snappy meetings you guys have here.
There is one item. Max just found out that his employer will no longer pay for both his Washington and California CPA license. And so he's going to be keeping only his California license, which means he cannot hold himself out as a CPA in the state of Washington. So he would be jeopardizing his license if the city of Bremerton said, "Oh well, it's okay, it's a California license, we're good with that." He really can't do that. I think it jeopardizes his license. So I have asked Mike Riley if the city could pay for his license, but I don't know if they'll do that because it opens the door to picking up expenses for other volunteers, and they just might not want to go there. So anyway, I don't think I've heard yet from Mike. So, but he will be here through the end of June because that's when his Washington license will expire.
Oh, okay.
The cost is very nominal.
What kind of money are we talking about?
It's $230 for 3 years, which is how long his term is. I know. So it's not, we definitely have room in my budget for it, but it's more a matter of policy if the city can pay for those types of expenses. So I'm waiting to hear from Mike on that. I'm sure I'll hear soon. It could be in my inbox now, but. And it took a long time to find Max.
Exactly.
I was gonna say.
Let's go look in this behind the sofa cushions. We could easily do this.
Seriously, yeah.
We could crowdfund you.
I'm on it.
Could we do a GoFundMe?
Exactly. You could dress up in a Krampus outfit and, feed the auditor, feed the CPA. Okay, so we're talking $230
for 3 years.
3 years.
$112 a year or something.
Max, we will save you. We will figure it out.
Oh, a doggo.
Oh, is it puppy time?
It's dog time.
It's not my dog's time.
Okay.
Sorry, he's wanting some food.
Is that a beagle?
It is. I have 3 beagles. Yeah, and
Multiple beagles.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we completely fall into oh my God, I want to see the puppy. So these are the 2 things that I am bringing. Is I'm putting on the agenda. Is that my job as the chair? Okay. That we're going to review the work plan and consider adding, subtracting, amending, and making sure to keep the whole parking segments in place for mid 2023, because that's work that has to start then. Is that correct?
I think that's fair. It doesn't have to. I mean, you could have a new priority.
Yeah.
So
I think
it's up to you.
my ask is a thorough review of the work plan.
Okay.
And that review would include priorities, etc. Right?
Priorities are good.
Appropriateness, whatever, we want to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then we should bring snacks to that meeting. I feel we're going to do a thorough review. And
it doesn't have to take that long.
What? We'll see. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to put on, for crying out loud, there's got to be some way we can find $230 for the next 3 years so that, we have Max with us. Oh, Marwan, please go ahead. You have your hand up.
Yeah, are future meetings gonna be in person at Norm Dix?
So far, we are doing committee meetings on Zoom. Given the technical difficulties with this one, I would love to have it at Norm Dix, but that's the policy that council set back in January. Well, we're still in January. That's the policy that council set, is that committee meetings would be virtual.
Okay.
Yeah, my understanding is part of that is because of some technical upgrades that need to happen on the 6th floor, which is where we would hold our meetings.
Well, I would imagine we could hold our meetings in the chamber, could we not?
Maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
do you want me to find out about that as well?
Yeah, why not? Christine can add some color there as well, I'm sure. So you might want to work with her on that.
I will work with her on that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is it the will of the committee to meet in person, or?
I would prefer to keep meeting virtually.
Okay, I got one for virtual. Anybody else for virtual? I got two for virtual. I got two. Anybody else?
I'm neither here nor there. There's a lot to be said for in-person meetings, but there's also a lot to be said for not getting COVID, and COVID is not over. So,
Okay, so Marwan, yes, they will continue to be virtual on account of, democracy, and also the auditor doesn't want it.
Awesome, thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay,
Oh, no worries.
all right. Okay, do we have additional things? Like there's a miscellaneous glossary, which I don't fully understand. We've looked at the meeting schedule. Okay, I'm gonna do an exciting thing. Are you guys ready? Does anyone else have anything more? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Okay, seconded. Whomp. Thank you all very much. Jenny, I will email you to find out when you might have 15 minutes free to talk about fraud. Max, we will save you. Okay, thank you all very much. This is a lovely committee. Okay,
Thank you, Anna.
You.
That's what you say now.
that's
Thank
true.
you,
That's true.
Marwan.
Thank you all.
Fun.
Stay
Good
warm and
night,
dry.
everyone. See you next month.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Done with my meeting.